I'm so happy to be back. And let me connect my.
Okay, and it looks like everything is in place. So here we are. Today we are talking about how to sell a fantasy. So, as you all know, I got married at 8 months, and I want this to happen for everyone. And through those years, I have been reading, before I ever got married, through those years, I had read books, I had worked with coaches, and it wasn't the one coach, it wasn't the one book I read that got me the results of actually having a great relationship and getting married. It was like my life experience, it was the books, it was the coaches, everything combined. So I started my own coaching business with strategic steps to help you get married. In the Black culture, we have a very low marital rate. So I want to bridge the gap with the other races and help women get real results. I've gotten two women married in the last 12 months. So my coaching is working. Okay, so let's get to it. All the title is about is using this as a conversation, selling a fantasy to have a conversation, to bring you and the person that you're dating closer. This is just a way to start healthy relationships where you kind of know logistically how both of you guys want your life to go. So, meaning you would ask him a question. I guess you could call it selling a fantasy. You would ask him a question that goes like this: If I was to cook for you, what would you want to eat? This sort of like plants a seed in someone's, brain, your man's mind, that when you're dating, that you maybe want to cook for him one day. And I'm not telling you when to use this. I'm not saying to use this on the first date. I'm not saying to use this on the third date. Obviously you want to be smart on when you use these little seeds I'm telling you to plant so your relationship can blossom into more. And sometimes you want to tell people you like them without being like, I like you so much. You want to know what your life would be like if you were creating, like, if you were creating or thinking of how your everyday life with your man would go. So let's say you're dating and you want to start asking questions like the question I just mentioned. You could ask another question. You could say something like, so if we were to travel, where would we go? And maybe he could say, oh, we would go to Mexico. Maybe he would say, oh, we would go to Paris. But you want to start knowing what things would you guys do together. You can ask questions like, how will we celebrate holidays together? This makes a person's mind think, oh my God, like, oh, so which holiday? Christmas. Would we decorate the tree? These are everyday things that require logistics. They require planting the seed to ask and find out how things would go. You want to work on knowing the logistics before you even get all the way into the relationship, knowing how things are going to go. Is this a person who maybe goes to the library every night? Would he be getting home right at 6 or 7? You want to find out, what is his schedule like? How would the two of you guys combined? Would it work for you? Would it work for him to, be at the library or be somewhere studying at, until 9 o'clock? Would that work for you, or would that be offensive to you? Would you think, something else was going on, or would you trust him? And would you trust yourself to say, well, what could I get done between the hours of 7 and 9? Or whatever time that would be. So, selling your fantasy is really just having a conversation about the logistics of how the relationship is going to go. So, what do you need your relationship to be like? Do you need your man to rub your feet at night? Is that something that you need? Is that something that you would ask? Like, So, when we're watching movies after we get married, would you be rubbing my feet? These are questions that you can ask. You want to feel brave to ask about the logistics of how things would go once you guys get married or start a relationship. I don't recommend having a relationship like start it for like a long time. I don't recommend being a girlfriend for 2 years, even 3 years or 4 years. I recommend being a girlfriend for the shortest amount of time. And I also don't put a lot of weight on being a fiance. I think that once you sign those papers, if your state requires you to drive around with a license, like a driver's license, then your state needs you to be married. So one thing that I will say is I heard on a podcast, I think and it was Rebecca Bennett. I think I'm saying her name correctly. Rebecca Bennett's YouTube video. And she was on there with, no, it was Amira and Chantel. I think she is Jamaican. But they talk on the YouTube video and they said, and this is going to be deep, this is a trigger warning. She said that because I lived on my own for about 3 to 5 years when got out of my mom's house and lived on my own. I don't even think I left my parents' house. Let's see. I think I was on my own for maybe 2.5 years. It really wasn't long. So, okay, let's go. So what was said was once you are at home and you leave your mother and your father's house or your parents' house, and you step into the world and you maybe get your own apartment, you are uncovered. This is like a godly thing, right? This is, in the Bible, a woman needs to be covered. I was just reading about these two women in the UK the girl had a 6-year boyfriend. They went to a party in the park. After the party was over, these two women were by themselves. And then this man attacked them and they ended up losing their lives, and they were two sisters. And it kind of makes me sad thinking about it. But I truly, truly believe that if there was a man that was with them in the park, like meaning like they went there were men present, I truly believe no one would have attacked them. I truly believe that no one would have tried them. When you are alone, you are uncovered. It is your goal to be covered. You want to be strategic. I don't care if you think, I know a lot of us, I'm darker skinned. You could think, oh my God, I'm too dark. You can think, oh my God, I'm not cute. Well, work on whatever you need to do, meaning like, obviously I don't recommend like bleaching your skin, but I recommend doing your inner work and gaining confidence. And so with this being said, your goal is to be covered. There's so many women that are boss chicks and they are really into making money. Money can't keep you warm at night. Every woman needs a covering. I know a lot of YouTubers say, oh, well, you don't need a man. You could do bad all by yourself. Yes, we all do. We all do. Because unless you have some muscles, like some real muscles, you're not about to carry a bed up the stairs by yourself. I just can't see that happening. So your goal is to be covered. Your goal is to have strategy. Your goal is to date better than you were dating before. Your goal is to work on your patterns. Are you dating? Like, what's going on? Like, why aren't you getting the result you need to get? Do you need to start dating a different type of guy? Do you need to venture out? Do you need to start going outside and putting yourself in position to meet someone? It's very important for you to be covered. It's very important for you to work on your inner work and know that it gets to be better. Your life gets to be good. You'd be surprised how many boss chicks get all this money. I was just watching Super Scent. She was in her $2 million house. She like went viral making these crayon lipsticks. And she was in her house and she was saying how she would have stayed at her old apartment if it was in a better neighborhood because the $2 million house isn't doing it for her. I know that you want to make money and you can, but guess what? You still need a covering. So I will basically say selling a fantasy is really just talking about the logistics of how your relationship needs to work. When you talk about the logistics of how your relationship needs to work, a man is going to start picturing himself with you. He's going to be like, oh my God, I've never been asked these questions before. I have a best friend, and actually today is her birthday. And I remember my first boyfriend. My first boyfriend, like me and him had it was such a childish relationship. I remember my best friend, like she was very future oriented, always was very focused on the future. And when she met him, she said, "Oh, what college are you going to? Oh, okay, are you going to study, there? Or are you going to study at that campus?" She had all these questions. And I was like 16, it was an innocent relationship. And he looked at me later and he said, "Kenise, you never asked me questions like that." And I'm like, "You're right, because I have no idea about the logistics of life." So once you start knowing the logistics of life, and you know that a relationship sometimes boils down to who is buying the paper towel. Are you waiting on him, or can you just buy it yourself? Use his card, use your card. You know, it boils down to the logistics of who will make dinner. I believe that Jordan Peterson talked about this. Things boil down to logistics. It's not about really selling a fantasy. It's about having someone think, how would my life work with her? Is there a future with her? It's about you vetting him and finding out, what is the future with him? Are you so interested after he answers certain questions? But asking those minuscule questions to find out, could your relationship really blossom into something great? Could you really work with this person? It's almost like when you're getting hired for a job, right? And you find out the hours and then you say, "Oh no, I can't stay that late because I have to pick up my cousin at 6 on Fridays." And then they say, "Okay, we can work around your schedule." But then once you get in a job, you're like, "Oh, I have to pick up my cousin at 6." And they're like, "Well, we told you from the beginning that it was going to be, you know, a job that's 8 to 6. So what can we do?" So before you get all the way in it, you sort of want to understand the logistics of the relationship. Okay, guys, I just heard my husband walk in. I want to go and greet him. So thank you guys.